Willkommen zum Reinsurance Podcast, live aus Baden-Baden. Wir sind hier für die jährliche Rückversicherungskonferenz, wo sich führende Mitglieder der Branche versammeln, um über die neuesten Trends, Herausforderungen und Innovationen zu sprechen. Bleiben Sie dran für exklusive Einblicke direkt von der Konferenz. Welcome, Jorn and Bernhard, to the Reinsurance Podcast here in Baden-Baden. Pleasure to have you on the show from the Verisk Munich office.
Yes, that's correct. Thanks for having us.
And how a shorter trip, I guess, to come to Baden-Baden.
Yeah, we can drive over in about 3 hours, so it's a shorter trip, yes.
What's it like being here in your home country, I guess, but celebrating the world of risk and reinsurance?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it was originally founded by Englishmen in the 1950s here, the conference, and it's still very international and lots of folks from England as well. So it is always a good opportunity, really, to see lots of clients, prospects, fellow whatever people from the industry in general. So I think that is really, a nice event for us. So we really like to come here every year for 3-4 days.
Brilliant.
And have our meetings.
Perfect. It makes complete sense that we're talking about these things from Munich on a global scale. Munich being sort of a home of reinsurance in many ways, and Baden-Baden being its near neighbour. And you guys at Verisk, you do look at all of the world at once, right? So what have you been watching recently? What are the major events that you've been tracking around the world?
Yeah, maybe I can start, and then Bernhard can obviously chime in. It was obviously interesting to see what happened over the last few weeks with the hurricanes in the United States. It's good to see, really, after so many years that the industry is very well prepared, and I think for this kind of events, and with the National Hurricane Center giving a pretty good prediction of the track and the models we have, I think we can provide pretty good answers in advance so that people know what they can expect.
Yeah.
And I think in this particular case, fortunately, it did not unfold as badly as it looked for some time, that it was not a direct hit on Tampa.
Yeah.
And it basically weakened a little bit before. But I mean, it's interesting to see that pretty shortly after landfall, with the help of models and other things, people were in a position to say, okay, this is going to be not the worst case event. It's not going to be 100 billion. It's only going to be, let's say, 50 billion.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference, because I mean, everything below 50 doesn't seem to really change the industry. It doesn't trigger probably not too many ILS structures, etc. So basically, everybody is pretty relaxed now, because they could see that it will not be as expensive as it could have been.
Yep.
And I think that is definitely one big advantage that the modeling industry has brought to the industry altogether.
Yeah. That
we have a good understanding of what the actual impact of a particular event can be and is after it made landfall.
And I guess it's not just been the hurricanes, right? In Europe, quite a lot has been going on as well, floods and galore. What have you seen, Bernhard?
Yeah, that's right. So obviously we had two, I would say, mid-sized flood events in Europe, right? Both to the tune of 2 to 3 billion. One in June, one more recently in Eastern Europe in September, right? So, and basically, we've been hearing talk of secondary perils now for a couple years. We reference them as frequency peril. We think that's more appropriate, right? So if you're looking at markets like Germany, flood is actually quite important, and for some programs the leading peril. So that's definitely on top of people's mind.
Yeah.
Obviously there has been a lot of severe convective storm activity in recent years, right? You had the events in 22 in France and then in Italy last year.
Yep.
So this is really what is on our clients' mind, and therefore certainly also on our mind.
Yeah, and so what are you talking about with your clients as you come to Baden-Baden and meet everybody? What are they asking you for advice on and help with?
Obviously with these events unfolding, natural catastrophes are kind of the priority, I would say, in the discussions that we have. And by the way, if we look at losses on a global scale, one thing that we do every year is basically run our global suite of models and look at the potential for global losses, right? And basically, our current report says the AL globally is to the tune of 119 billion US dollar.
So another 100 billion plus last year.
Exactly. And I mean, for basically now 5 years in a row, we had global losses over 100 billion.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem unrealistic that we'll reach 140, 150 billion to the end of the year, right? But it also feels that the market has kind of adjusted a little bit. 2 years ago, it was quite a frenzy, and this year it seems a bit more civilized. And I think reinsurers have adjusted their terms. Obviously, I think it's now a bit more challenging for the primary insurers, but that's my observation so far.
Yeah, and are you working with all manner of people here? You've got the buyers, the brokers, and the underwriters?
Yes. I mean, we serve the whole suite of the industry here, so from brokers over to banks, ILS investors, reinsurers, insurers, etc., some government agencies also. So yes, we have lots of different people to talk to provide our expertise here.
I can imagine, and you bring with you, I guess, not just obviously the AIR piece has been very active, presumably from that acquisition long ago, but all manner of things at Verisk nowadays. What's in the suite of tools that Verisk brings to market these days?
Yeah, I think there's I think there was a press release on Friday, and I think there was a joint presentation today, Verisk together with Guy Carpenter on PFAS, on the potential impacts of PFAS in the liability business.
Interesting.
So that's something that has caught quite a lot of attention, and I think there was also an article here in Baden. So that's definitely another one that is of interest. Other than that, interestingly enough, there's SRCC, so civil commotion. So we get lots of requests for that. We have a sister company called Maplecroft, and they provide some information or some tools to basically control this kind of risk better, and that has become quite popular these days. That's another example of the kind of the bandwidth of what we are doing.
Yeah, I guess we're 2 weeks away from the US election.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I mean, let's not talk about that, but potentially yes, there could be more losses. Yeah.
So what are you going to be watching as we go through the rest of this conference and towards the end of the year and those 1/1 renewals? What's on your mind looking forwards?
It's a good question. So again, I mean, we'll keep very close tabs on the loss development, obviously, of the hurricanes. I think that will, in the end, also determine pricing, right? That's quite interesting for us to observe. And then, I mean, for us, our models, the use case for the models is to have a long-term stable benchmark, right? So there's a lot of recency bias in humanity, I want to say, right? So we tend to focus on what has happened recently. I think the value of the models really lies in having a stable benchmark, and to be able to expect the unexpected, even if that sounds a bit cheesy maybe, but that's kind of the core value of the models, I would say. Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about frequency perils who are top of mind for our clients, and that's also where we invest quite a bit. So be that flood, be that wildfire, be that severe thunderstorms, these are all regions where we expand our modeling capabilities. And also we want to bring frequent updates to the market to make sure our clients get the latest view of risk.
Brilliant. And how about you, Jon?
Yeah, there are a couple other things. So obviously climate change is still top of the list, when it comes to discussions. And we offer, some solutions for that as well, like climate condition catalogs, etc. But I think, I'm personally not getting tired of really emphasizing the importance of exposures, the exposure location and exposure values that have significantly increased. So when you really look at the overall loss developments, if you see any increases, yes, there is a signal of climate change, but the main driver really is and remains exposures. And I think that's, again, to basically not acknowledge climate change, but I mean, it's not the driver at this point in time. So that's something we still try to push as a message that you have to really look at the exposures and the values, inflation, social inflation, etc., because that is still the bigger driver. And then maybe last but not least, from what we are doing is we will be releasing a new platform. So the models is one thing, but obviously you need to keep up with the technological progress and development. So we are developing a new platform called Synergy Studio, which is coming out next year and the year after fully. That will provide an even better tool to run all these models and run bigger catalogs and more complex treaty conditions, treaty terms, etc. So that's something we are also focusing on over the next months.
Really exciting. We'll definitely have to catch up again then to hear when Synergy becomes available, so we can.
It would be a pleasure for us.
Get a full tour. But thank you so much, both of you, for coming on the show. Amazingly, the sun is out in Baden-Baden, so enjoy the rest of the conference.
What are the chances?
I know, in the sun. But it's been a pleasure having you here, and wish you the best.
Thanks a lot, Ben. It was a pleasure on our side.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.